Alright. Hey guys, I am Aidan, and welcome to the first episode of This Just In. And the topic of this podcast is simply me and one other person indulging you all in different media that we love. Today, I will be covering the Cartoon Network show named Adventure Time with my good friend Max.
Hi.
We both have had a love for this show for a very long time, which is recently reignited by the newest installation to the series named Fionna and Cake. We're here to give our thoughts on it and hopefully introduce you all to something great.
Uh, my thoughts are that you didn't watch the whole show and I did, so I'm better than you, I guess.
Alright.
Um,
So, first, let's start off with the main deal, Adventure Time. Max, would you mind kicking this off since you're much
the
more of an
first
Adventure
episode?
Time. Well, not the first episode, like the show in general, like the first show in general. Like
Oh,
you're
okay.
the big Adventure Time head, as is why I.
All right. So the first season starts out, it's just kind of silly, goofy. There's not much of a plot, and the characters aren't really developed either. And you get a little bit of the lore, but I mean, you don't really get much.
Yeah, it's like it kind of starts out.
It
With,
starts kind of
it starts out as
it's
like
kind
what
of
you'd
random.
expect
Yeah.
from a kid's show. It's
Yeah.
just kind of like goofy and not. It's
Honestly,
very unserious.
it's probably one of my least favorite seasons out of all of them.
Yeah.
To be fair, I do have that note of my favorite episodes, but I gotta go look for that. Hold on. So the only really important episodes in season one talk about like specific characters that are important later on, or specific items like the Enchiridion is introduced, but it like originally it's just like seen as like a treasure item. It's not really significant enough as it like compared to what it is
Yeah,
later
it's
on.
kind of meant as like this like kind of funny thing that Finn
It's like
goes to
yippee, you
look
win,
for.
but like it's not. It's like just like a big
Yeah,
treasure
it's
chest
just
almost.
everything.
Yeah.
It starts off very inconsequential and like there's no actual real like stakes. It's just kind of Finn and Jake being kids and like
Mhm.
fighting monsters with no real like weight to any of their decisions.
Mhm.
And then as things progress, it gets more and more serious as as like the cracks on that, which kind of starts with the introduction of the Lich, which is like which episode?
No, I don't remember. Mortal Folly and Mortal Recoil, I think. Those
Yeah.
two.
So like
Yeah, I think so.
so it like so yeah, it's like that's kind of when things because it's like it goes from like this super happy fun time experience to like this
Uh-huh.
like evil death lord that just
Yeah.
comes out of this like amber cage he was
Yeah.
basically put in by this hero named Billy.
Really?
And then he starts to roam the earth again, which Finn defeats him, but like not actually. It's kind of
Yeah. Just for a bit.
just for a little bit.
And then I think one of the more important, like another important episode, only comes in like season 3, which is where they introduce Simon as a character.
Yeah.
Like Ice King, like what's his deal for real? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's kind of the thing. It's like when you start out, you're kind of like, what? Why am I watching this? This is kind of just like nothing's really
Yeah.
happening. It's kind of boring, and that's kind of the mentality I had about it when I was younger because everything was so inconsequential and really didn't seem like it had a point to it. That was the stuff that got the people interested.
Yeah, but the later like good episodes you only could really find them on streaming services because everything I don't know Cartoon Network only played like Teen Titans Go like every second of every day, so it's
Yeah.
kind of annoying.
But yeah, but then it's like now that the show has finished,
Yeah,
and
for a
and
few years, like since 2019, I think.
yeah,
or something like
yeah,
that.
and since they actually started to like, and it's like the whole story's been kind of laid out for us basically. Now looking back at everything and knowing how everything ended up having this like super climactic ending, like looking back at the stupid stuff from the beginning, all of it kind of has more of like a like it emotionally connects a lot more with the viewer, especially me, because I remember, like I said, not really enjoying it much when I was younger, but then now watching it again at like at 18 years old, I'm like,
Mhm.
oh wow, this is like
Now I get it.
way yeah, like I get it now, like this makes sense, and that's kind of the magic of Adventure Time. It's kind of it starts out in like the like the kind of the innocent youth with like
Mhm.
Finn and Jake and everything, and then like as they start to grow and mature, so does the world around it, and things become a lot less like happy-go-lucky, and that's what's really
Mhm.
interesting about it. It's um yeah, no,
Very silly.
and then
But.
I mean, there's also of course the art style for it,
Mhm.
which is you know a big
And
part of its
then
identity.
yeah, and the art style it does change a bit like as the seasons go on with most things, but I feel like it gets a little more mature even. I don't know.
Yeah, it
Even
it,
though it's
it
still
becomes it
silly
becomes
looking.
more polished, I would
Yeah,
say.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like Pendleton Ward, like he had a really great vision for this project,
I
and
mean, the pilot. If you ever see the pilot, it was literally like it was like what
it works for the. I think it
it
works for
works
the
out. I
world.
don't
It
know.
allow like the cartoony style allows it to really push the limits, and it also is kind of its style. I think is part of that deceptive nature it has of like
Hmm.
everything being so like perfect and like happy and everything because everyone has these
Hmm.
like little smiley faces with dot eyes, and then
Hmm.
next thing you know, like everyone's dying in front of you.
Yeah, but
You know, and like people's faces are getting melted off, you know. It's like there's like points where you're like how did this get shown to kids, especially that
yeah.
episode with the deer where like all
Oh,
the
the
candy
deer. That's one of my
like
favorite
like
episodes.
like all the candy people get like licked and stuck to the wall together and are like melted together and stuff like that. It's like literally like crazy, but that's the thing. It's and then like the one episode that I remember specifically getting really upset by when I was younger was the one where they get the apple, like the crystal apple
Oh yeah,
um
and then she goes into the crystal dimension.
for tree trunks, and then she eats the apple and explodes. Like that's like, and it just ends with like that droning sound. That freaked me out when I watched it. But
But yeah,
yeah.
well, she didn't actually die from that, even though people thought for a while, like a couple seasons later.
Oh yeah, because they
Like,
never showed her again. Well, that's the thing.
yes, they did. Yes, they did.
Well, okay, the reason why I thought she was dead is because that was like in like one. It's not like they showed episodes in order. Like that was just an
Yeah.
episode that just popped up, and then it would go on to the next different show. So
Yeah,
like
well, it did that, and
so
well,
she just dies on screen, and then now you're
she came
watching.
back a few seasons later. That's the thing. She didn't come back immediately.
Yeah, and then so it's like she dies on screen, and then the next thing you see is Uncle Grandpa, and you're like, and then it's like this, and then there's just nothing else. You just, yeah, it was pretty good. Good morning.
I love Uncle Grandpa.
Yeah, he's
But
funny. I remember,
anyways,
yeah. Off topic.
sorry. Um, what was I gonna say? I forget.
Why don't we talk about the music, characters, even?
Ooh, I've always liked the outro song,
Yeah,
day
I
one,
mean,
and I thought it was really good. It was really silly funny when they did the full extended version of the outro song, like in the finale at the end.
yeah. Ooh.
And also, the singer of the song was a character in the show, The Big Hole. And in that episode, they also played a couple, like, they played a Mitski song in that one, where she got
Oh,
introduced. But, you know, it was silly funny. It was awesome, I
that's
think.
cool.
That was one of my favorite episodes.
I mean, and yeah, there's like the super iconic songs, like the ones from the outro, and then there's the intro song as well, which like,
And the intro song is just like it's just a little silly. It's not like a full song, you
yeah,
know?
it's just fun. It's to get like kids like feet clapping, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just fun. Like they get to like drool and like widen their pupils and be like, "Oh my god, adventure time!" Like that's
That's me. That's me.
and then the and then the outro is just to be like, "The adventure's over, hee hee.
Yeah.
Come along with me, guys." But and
I
then there's
really
also
okay.
beyond that though. Oh wait, sorry. What were you
I
gonna say?
really liked the food chain episode. I know everyone hates it, but it was one of my favorites.
Beyond that though, like the outro and the intro, there's also the main soundtrack, like the instrumentals that play in the background, which are really good. It's like it kind of goes from this very calm, like it can go from very calm, like kind of serene music to like it's like you let your 3-year-old just start hitting like an electric piano, and it's very stressful. Like that's kind of the
Kind of like SpongeBob in a way.
yeah. I'm probably right in post putting in some of the music right now to give more of a description of it, but
Mhm.
um It's pretty good. It has such a bizarre vibe to it that you don't
Hmm.
really get from anything else. It's very unique, and that definitely comes from like its music and everything. Like with that scene uh with what's the elephant woman's name again? I keep forgetting
Tree
her name.
trunks.
Tree Trunks, yeah, Tree Trunks. Like when she dies, like they made the choice to like not to make that even more unsettling just by just putting a droning sound like from the beginning of regular show. Like they put just
Oh.
that sound right after she explodes, and like that was like, and it was like, oh, okay,
Oh.
she's
Interesting.
dead now. But
I love it.
yeah, I love the music and characters. I mean, that's the lifeblood of this show, you know,
Yeah.
the
I mean,
writing
it
and the
really.
characters.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, who's your favorite though?
My favorite. I like Simon and Betty.
Yeah,
Even though they're stupid sometimes, but it's okay because that's real.
yeah. I guess I would have to
I
say my
I
favorite
always liked
characters.
Finn. I always liked Finn and Jake just like as a default, but that's not very original.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean Simon is definitely my favorite, but that became more so inside of Fiona and Cake because I related to him a lot as a character. And it just they fleshed him out a lot more in the second show, which we will get to in the next segment. I mean, my favorite character in Adventure Time though,
I liked
I
I
like
liked
Jake.
Princess Bubblegum and Marceline for a while.
I like.
I still do. I think it's because Princess Bubblegum, she's not really like a good. She's not a morally correct character. It's like interesting.
I don't know. Jake's always been my favorite. I think he
Yeah,
would,
Jake's pretty. I mean,
he'd be
he's a funny guy.
he'd be my best friend probably. Yeah.
Yeah. He's very a best friend kind of dude.
Yeah. I would let him make me bacon pancakes. In the morning.
That's bad.
But that's facts. And now that we've given Adventure Time all the love it deserves, I feel like there was, like I've mentioned before recently, an extension to the story, Beyond the Distant Land spin-off,
Which I
named,
watched. But
yeah.
he didn't.
Hey, look, we're not gonna talk about that, okay? I have enough time. Now we're gonna talk about Fiona and Cake, which we will cover in this next segment. Oh yeah, I guess we never brought up the fact that Ice King created Fiona and Cake.
Well, he didn't, but
Well, in the context of Adventure Time, he did. Like in the show Adventure Time.
okay.
It's said
So
that
it was in Adventure Time, it was thought that Ice King made this fan fiction of Jake and Finn and Jake, which was called Fiona and Cake.
Yeah. Where they're like,
And
where there's
the
basically
reality was
the genders of everyone is swapped essentially.
Yeah.
And it was told to us that that was basically from like the insane ramblings of like this, of like Ice
you
King.
know.
And but then
It was
we
just
find
him like, well, Ice King. He was after he used to hate Finn and Jake at first because he becomes okay. So Ice King is a character who's the main villain. Well, not the main villain, but he's an antagonist of sorts. Would always mess up with his plans to like steal princesses or whatever, because that was his thing, obviously. But after a while, he became like attached. They just had a really close relationship. I mean, and he was like, even though he wasn't lucid, he still had that longing to be with someone. I guess is my point. And there's this one episode where he becomes like, I don't know, he sound of mind, I guess, and he's aware.
yeah, like,
and
yeah, like he
he turns
his
back into
magic
who he
powers.
was. And in that he created like a magical time travel thing where he goes back and gets his fiance from what would be like our time, not like 1,000 years in the future like Adventure Time takes place. But she decides to jump into his time, even though he just wanted to say goodbye for the last time. And she eventually adjusts to like the magical world even after
It becomes kind of
Simon
crazy.
turns back into Ice King. Yeah, so she can't, and she tries to make things work with him, but it's just not the same. And she does all these magical things. She incorporates them. When we see Fiona and Cake as in the show, it's just a normal human like city.
Yeah.
I guess. It's not magical whatsoever, and that's because the universe of Fiona and Cake takes place entirely in Simon's mind, even though he isn't fully aware of that. He just thinks it's
because of
weird.
the fact that Ice King is no longer Ice King and he's just a normal dude, the world of Fiona and Cake is now is normal. Like it's our world, like it's our modern world. And so basically, the premise of Fionna and Cake is how Fionna and Cake are dealing with that, and how that kind of ties into the grief and sadness that Simon experiences from his own loss.
So Simon is he in Fionna and Cake. It's shown that he'd rather be crazy and not lucid than he'd rather be alone.
Which, in of itself, is kind of an allegory for substance abuse and how that relates to grief, and how Simon is kind of like
Or just
wants to go back into this state where he's really not himself or conscious because he wants to avoid the thought of the fact that he doesn't have his wife around anymore.
It's hard for him to accept not having, not like his new life, basically.
Yeah, because he's like because now he's lost his wife, but he doesn't have the comforts of the world.
He lost her again. Actually,
yeah.
He lost her.
Well, yeah, he lost her twice, and now But then now, not only has he lost who he considers the love of his life, but he also now is stuck in this magical world that even though he lived in it for thousands upon thousands of years as
it
Ice
wasn't
King,
him. He wasn't lucid.
Yeah, he didn't actually experience it himself. It was another entity separate from him, basically, that had control of his mind. And so now he's living in this world that he has no actual experience with, and so that is only adding on to the depression he feels.
Because everything's magical, and even though he lives with other people, because
there's other humans, but they're future humans, and so
it's not the same.
There's none of the cultural connection. So Fionna finds, one thing leads to another, and she ends up in the world of Adventure Time by exiting the mind of Simon, and so does Cake too. But so basically, she finds out that this world that she wished she had all along, because of these dreams she was having, actually exists in a different universe. Like, she's now grappling with the fact that she's unsatisfied with her life as well. And so Simon and Fionna, as well as Cake, begin to work together to try and gain back the lives that they wish they had, which for Simon is gaining back the power of the crown, which puts him in this sort of which puts him in the state where he can just kind of forget all this grief and sadness that he's experiencing. And then it also gives back the magical world that Fionna and Cake once had. So basically the premise of the show is both of them reaching out for this thing, which by the end of the show it may not exactly be what they want. So that's kind of so it's kind of the entire show of Fionna and Cake is grappling with loss, and how these two characters are dealing with it in an unhealthy way, and how they start to come to terms with the fact that it isn't healthy, and over time becoming like finding ways to cope in a more healthy way, I guess. Yeah, especially Simon. And Adventure Time is still really good, and you should still check out Adventure Time because you really do need it to understand Fionna and Cake, at all. Yeah, and then also the art has greatly improved in in Fionna and Cake. I feel like the animation is a lot more expressive, I think. Of course, the original animation for Adventure is very expressive, and they do the close-ups where it's looks really grotesque and stuff like that, and it's very comedic, but I think in Fionna and Cake, there's obviously more production value that you can see being put into it, and I think that's because of the fact that the season is so short, and there's only 10 something episodes, and so more time is being put into each thing, and there's even whole cool animated segments that are in a completely different style that look really amazing. It's very ambitious, and I think there's a lot to really love about it, despite it being a spin-off that kind of raised the eyebrows of people, kind of being why is they doing this kind of adult Adventure Time thing? But I think it's really good, and I like it a lot. And the music's really beautiful too. It has a great soundtrack that they have on Spotify. But yeah, and then the characters are great too. I mean, I've already talked to death about Simon. They go more into Betty's character as well, and she's very good. And then Fionna and Cake, who in the original series I didn't really care much about at all. Oh, and Marshall Lee and Gary, they're very good too. They are all characters that I never really cared about before.
But you
But
care
but in
about like
this
the build up of them too.
yeah,
Like,
but in this show, this spin-off, they're finally like kind of letting them grow a bit and like be more interesting. Both of these shows are very beautiful in their own rights, having such a cosmic array of colorful characters that are still loved to this day and continue to grow from the mind of Pendleton Ward and the artists who work alongside him. Um,
mhm.
and yeah, and I mean, seeing as we have covered everything we believe can be said in the time we have, about ends our podcast. Thank you everyone for tuning in and listening to my latest obsession, and thank you, Max, for coming on to speak with me today. So, with that being said, see you next time.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.